What's up, nerds? It's your boy. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. It's Tuesday, the 7th day of February 2023. It's about 64 degrees and windy here at Site B. A lovely spring morning. I'm drinking coffee because remember, I rarely drink soda anymore. Thank you to my sponsor, Kuso Coffee, link down below. And let's take a momentary break from the inevitable conversation we have to have about the latest Wizards of the Coast crisis and the interview with executive VP of, I don't know, because apparently all they have at Wizards of the Coast is executive VPs. Kyle Brink. Remember Kyle? Poor Kyle. Kyle's the guy that Hasbro threw under the bus to make all the press releases regarding how Wizards of the Coast was addressing the OGL controversy and the OGL questionnaire that they put up and stuff like that. Well, Kyle Brink got interviewed yesterday and he said some rather questionable things that, of course, we have to get into, as the rest of us are. Some things that were really borderline uncomfortable. But before that, let's look at some toys. You know, let's just have a palate cleanser and let's look at the toys that Wizards of the Coast Hasbro has coming out for us for spring. All right, so we got this thing. I don't know what that is. Is that from Transformers? We got this Lightning Collection Chewy, Lightning Collection AT-AT. That AT-AT looks nice. It could look better. We got the Dicelings, which, of course, remember the Dicelings? The big controversy was people were not going to allow you to roll them at the table because, yeah, that totally looks like it would actually work as a dice. They're kind of cool, but I have a feeling they're going to be too expensive for what it is. I mean, you know, yeah. All right, so they have announced Dungeons & Dragons: The Yawning Portal board game. Maybe, I don't know. It doesn't come with any figures, so, I mean, nah. Dungeons & Dragons Bedlam and Neverwinter Escape game. You know, when Hasbro starts making a lot of D&D themed board games, it means that they're looking at trouble. And remember, Wizards of the Coast doesn't do the board games anymore. A different department does all the board games now. So even though these are Dungeons and Dragons board games, they're not being made by Wizards of the Coast. All the board games were given to a different department in a different company. Wizards of the Coast has nothing to do with the D&D board games. Okay, that's the thing. And, you know, remember the last time, I don't know if anybody remembers, the last time we saw a lot of D&D board games coming out all of a sudden, including all those ones that had the great figures in them. This one looks like it has figures. Remember, that was right before they gave up on 4th edition, right about the year when they were like, okay, this isn't working. They suddenly started to release a ton of D&D themed board games to keep people slightly interested in the hobby and the IP while they started working on 5th edition. So if you don't remember, on 2012, 2013, when they gave up on 4E, there was a gap. We saw a lot of really cool D&D themed board games and then 5th edition. And again, just a reminder, these are not being made by Wizards of the Coast. This is being made by somebody else. We also have the Monopoly Honor Amongst Thieves game. No figures. No, I don't really see anybody rushing out to get this. Yeah. You've already done Forgotten Realms themed Monopoly, and if you haven't, you should. I think you've already done Waterdeep Monopoly, and if you haven't, you should. I don't see this selling at all. Honor Amongst Thieves Dicelings. Depends upon the price. $14. $14. The dragon, maybe. The dragons, maybe. The beholder, maybe. You know, now that I'm actually seeing them, they kind of look crappy. I mean, it's an interesting idea, you know, like if you went to the movie, which nobody is, if they gave one away with like some super special popcorn deal, like get a $20, get a large popcorn, get a soda, and get a Diceling. Maybe, but I don't see anybody walking into the store forking out $14 plus tax to get one of these when there are plenty of better D&D themed toys out there for less money. So I expect we will see these on the shelves of the 99-cent store within 6 months. We've got Star Wars, the Vintage Collection. Yes, this is once again, revisiting older Star Wars figures and reproducing them in the brand new style. And you know, if you're a Star Wars figure guy, you're excited about this. We've got the Endor bunker. We've got Chewie on the AT-AT. These all look like they're basically themed around Empire mostly, and some stuff for Vader versus Obi-Wan. So the Obi-Wan TV show, but mostly looks like it's Endor themed. So that's nice. All of them are going to be a little, you know, priced high, but then they're the collector Lightning collection stuff. So that's no surprise. In the Indiana Jones figure set, they're redoing the Indiana Jones figure set. There could be a huge interest from that. You can also get a whip. I'm sure that's going to go over well. You showed a whip to my 8-year-old? What were you thinking? So yeah, we got, you know, all the figures from the original movie. Marion, we got the Ark, we got Indy with the whip. Yeah, it's nice to see these. And they're $25, $25. The retro figures, these have not been around for a while. So this is, I mean, obviously finding the originals in a toy store would be much better than just retro releases. But yeah, if you've ever wanted the Indy figs, here they are. I'm sure people will say they're racist now. The Transformers Earthspark figs. The Earthspark is the new cartoon on what used to be Paramount Plus. Looks absolutely awful. Yeah. So there's that. We've got the Transformer Rises the Beast mass, which should probably do voices. And I don't know, that Bumblebee looks like crap. Magic the Gathering, Chirander's Pyromancer Gauntlet. Okay, so this is something from Magic the Gathering, and I guess it makes. Does it actually do that? Make steam and stuff and glow and like stuff? Because that'd be kind of cool. But it's $300. So if you're the guy who has every Magic the Gathering thing and you want this for ultimate cosplay nonsense, $300 for this. Yeah, I don't get it. Then we have some Wordle, the party game, because remember, Hasbro makes games. This game will, again, not be made by Wizards of the Coast. It will be made by the new division that's in charge of all the board games. We've got the Sun Moon Rising game. I don't know what that is. Some kind of party game. Again, not made by Wizards of the Coast. We got the Love is Dead with little cute ghosts. This looks like Gloom, like Wizards of the Coast. It looks exactly like Gloom. Dear God, Wizards of the Coast just stole Gloom, and you know, you think Gloom's going to get any credit for this? No, this is an exact ripoff of Gloom, just with different looks. Screw you, Wizards of Hasbro. And that seems to be it for the Hasbro Spring Collection. Surprisingly, nothing for Power Rangers. You would think with the 30th anniversary going live in a couple days, we would see some more Power Ranger toys. Disappointing. Is there anything on here you actually want? I mean, you know, no. I'll wait till these are at the 99-cent store. Okay. That was the palette cleanser for 10 minutes. I gave you a nice 10 minutes to decide whether you wanted to hear me talk about this or not. Of course, I was going to talk about the toys. All right. Ready? Now let's dive into Kyle Brink's interview yesterday. And oh my Lord, the things that came out of that man's mouth. Again, just leading us back to, dear Wizards of the Coast, you remember when I said on Saturday that the one thing you need to do to maybe get some damage control done is just not say anything for the rest of the year? Hire a press secretary, hire a public relations manager. Do not let idiots like Kyle Brink go on and talk about the OGL situation, because you just made the situation worse with your statement. And of course, of all the statements that came out of this, and we're going to go through all of them and tear them apart as best we can, there was the statement where Kyle Brink basically says, in order for D&D to continue, people like me need to get out of the hobby. In order for D&D to continue, white, middle-class men need to leave the hobby. Let's, not forget that for the past 50 years, 85 to 90% of your audience, Dungeons & Dragons, has been white men. And 100% of the Wizards of the Coast leaders, including the 3 new Microsoft execs, are white folk like me. So you're saying you don't want me in the game anymore. The guy who just spent 4 weeks fighting, signing petitions, talking every day so that the OGL 5e could be staying so people like me could continue to play, but now you're saying you don't want people to play. So what are you saying, Kyle? Is it you're saying you don't think you should be associated with Dungeons and Dragons anymore, and you don't think the current board of directors of Wizards of the Coast, who are all white folk, this is going to get me in so much trouble, should be touching the hobby anymore? Because I think we can all agree, yes, Kyle, you should have nothing to do with the hobby anymore. But if you're saying that you don't want the money that we pour into the hobby every day, well, fine. I will take my money elsewhere. Now, I can't imagine the majority of shareholders, who are also probably people like you, Kyle, are very happy with the statement that you don't want their money anymore. I'm going to go on a limb and say the multiple editors and advisor and executive VPs, and people like Chris Cook and Jeremy and Perkins and Greg and all these other guys who are people like me are very happy to say, hear you say that they don't belong in the game anymore. Now, what was he talking about? He was talking about inclusion. He was talking about how Wizards of the Coast needs to be more inclusive and the hobby needs to be more inclusive. Of course, that's the reverse racist state that the hobby has never been inclusive, that the only people all across the planet who are playing the hundreds of thousands of role-playing games that are available are people like me, white, middle-class American folk. In the 50 year of the hobby, nobody else. All those Japanese people who are playing Call of Cthulhu, nope, they don't count. All those European people and Eastern European people and British people and German people and Russian people and Czechoslovakian people and Polish people who are playing all the European board games and role-playing games, they don't count. All the people in South America who are playing various games, they don't count. All the Asian people, Call of Cthulhu, D&D, Sword Art, all those billions of people, they don't count. Canadians, you don't count. The only people who are playing D&D are people like me, and we need to leave the hobby. So it is open for the people who up to now have not been allowed. Now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I cannot speak for any of the rest of you. I can only speak for myself. I can only speak for myself in my 50 years in this hobby, where I have played pretty much up and down the California coast. I have played D&D in Oregon. I have played D&D in Seattle. I have played D&D in Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, New York, the Tahitian Islands, Britain, and not once was I at a table where it was just people like me. From day one, 1977, I'm playing D&D with my brother. And the people who were talking about D&D, one of the very first people I played with D&D with was a kid who was like 13 years old, openly gay, black. Again, that's going to get me in trouble, isn't it? But yeah, no. I played 15 years in the exact same game with World Martial Arts Hall of Famer TJ Storm as the DM, the guy who mocapped Godzilla. You ever seen TJ Storm? Yeah, he's from Hawaii. And at that table over the 15 years, I played with every single solitary possible configuration of race, creed, color, religion, sexual orientation. I played with a millionaire. I played with a homeless guy. I played with porn stars. I played with house husbands. I played with housewives. I played with kids. I played with adults. I have been all over the world. And I can say from my personal experience, the game has always been inclusive. If you walked by the table and even mentioned a slight interest, we would ask you to come play. Still, till this day, The most recent game I was in, I was the only normal person like me at that table, and anybody who came in and asked, no matter what they looked like, what they sounded like, what their orientation was, hey, you want to learn how to play? So that's Kyle reiterating the falsehood of the reverse racism that's D&D, that D&D is only what folk like me, and it ain't. It never has been, and it never will be. So stop that. What you should have said, instead of white folk like me need to get out of the game, how much trouble am I going to get into for this, Aaron? I probably should just not monetize this one. Yeah, that's just an outright lie. Now, everybody and their dog has already jumped on this, so there's really not much I can say that hasn't already been said. But thankfully, people far smarter than me have broke it down. So let's go to this article. It was posted up yesterday around 6:30, where right after the interview, thank you, 3 Black Halflings, for going through this and, these guys were really tough on Kyle. They did not give him a lot of headroom, and you can see multiple times in the article where Kyle is just like, blah, 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 blah. So let's go the breakdown. First, all the events that led up to this nonsense, the OGL 1.1 events. But first, a cup of coffee. Cat Monroe's superhero. How much trouble am I going to get in this for saying this stuff? Because let's face it, I've already said a couple things that somebody could say is racist. Green apple. Here's a guy who's green in an apple, but yep, I guess he doesn't play D&D. Cat Monroe, superhero. It's a cat who's also superhero, but yeah, I guess you don't play D&D. Aaron the Relentless. He's the king of the goblins. You think? Oh, but nope. The only people that play D&D are people like you, Kyle, and you need to leave the hobby. All right. OGL 1.1 events as broken down. 1. There was a concern that the OGL allowed Facebook to make a D&D metaverse without Wizards of the Coast involvement. That's completely untrue. Facebook has never mentioned any interest in creating a role-playing game. More, why would they want to? It's literally not their wheelhouse. Now, what you could have said is we are concerned that video games might be taking money out of our thing. Except, of course, they still have to use the OGL. So with D&D still gets some acknowledgement. The closest comparison I can think was Solastar, Crown of the Magister, which used as its backbone the OGL 5 whatever engine. So even though it was no way, shape, or form connected to D&D, it was D&D adjacent. It did make a big deal out of the fact that it was using the Wizards of the Coast OGL. And if you wanted to find out more about the system that we used to create Solista, here, look at D&D. See, you're saying that you don't want other companies to make stuff that gives you free press and drives more and more people back to you. Now, we know that that is completely untrue because I've gone over this before with the Mickey Mouse argument for why Disney allows so many Mickey Mouse and Disney adjacent third-party stuff to be created and made throughout the world, knowing full well that they receive almost nothing for those. And the reason why Disney allows it is it's free press. It would take too much time, energy, and money for Disney to go after every single solitary person that is using Mickey Mouse without their permission. So a long time ago, they realized, you know what? For every dime we lose on that sweatshirt that you bought at that gas station, that's $300 to $3,000 we will make back later on, because now we've planted that little mental earworm in your brain about going to Disneyland and buying more Disney stuff. So we'll take the dime loss to make the $3,000 later on. So Wizards of the Coast, you could have just said, hey, Facebook's giving us free press. Thank you. How about we offer anybody who plays the Facebook D&D game or whatever it is that you were afraid Facebook was going to do, which probably was nothing because, again, it's not Facebook's wheelhouse. Facebook might host third-party games that somehow use some adjacency to D&D, just like they host tons of other third-party games like Wordle. But yeah, Facebook's not going to make their own Facebook role-playing game. You could have said, hey, if you play this D&D adjacent video game on Facebook, you will get a coupon for 10% off a purchase from D&D Beyond. Wow! Well, I should be in charge of Wizards of the Coast. Point number 2, the OGL decision. Wizards of the Coast have gotten themselves into a terrible place and are grateful for the feedback that allowed them to see that. Let's face it, if the brave Wizards of the Coast individual, who probably no longer has a job, had not leaked it in the first place, we would never have found out about it, and you would have passed it without us knowing. And then one morning we would have woke up and you would have gone, oh, hey, the past 24 years you've been using our license. Well, we didn't know you were doing it. Somehow we missed it, but you've been using the license that we never said you could. Well, while you were sleeping, we revoked it, made a new one. So all that past 24 years of stuff you've been doing, completely illegal. Please give us money. Number 3, the royalties in OGL 1.0 were there as a giant deterrent to mega corporation. You are a mega corporation. Why would you deter yourself? Name one other company that is making as much money off of Dungeons & Dragons as you are. No one. You know who is making money off of the OGL? Paizo, Green Ronin, Frog God Games, Necromancer Games, Troll Lord Games. And oh yeah, who has made the most money in the last 5 years off of the OGL that isn't Wizards of the Coast? Because remember, the very specific number was 75 something. Now, who do we know in the D&D verse that made that kind of money in, I don't know, 2020 and 2021? I'm going to drink a cup of coffee while you think about it. It's a trick question. I'm getting to that. Actually, Avenger was the very first thing I said after I went over the toys, and I'm getting to it. Love you, Avenger. Mega corporation that might have been making money off of OGL that wasn't you. Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? 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 Give you a hint. Starts with the words Critical Role. You were literally saying you don't want Critical Role to make that kind of money. You only want you to make that kind of money because let's face it, the only group out there that is making $10 million off D&D is Critical Role. Hi, Avenger. Kyle Brink is not familiar with what happened in the private meetings with certain publishers in December, although was aware the meetings were taking place. Okay, I can believe that. I mean, you're only the executive vice president of D&D Beyond. Why would they invite you to meetings with the publishers? Plus, it's not like meeting minutes aren't made available afterwards to executives. And it's not like you couldn't go, hey, Joe, what were they talking about? But I'll give you that one, Kyle. When the OGL 1.1 documents became public, Wizards of the Coast had already abandoned much of it. No, you hadn't. You were pushing it right till that night where we crashed D&D Beyond, and then you rushed out the 5.1 SRD. No, sorry. You were not abandoning any of it. You were pushing that through and hoping we would agree with you by saying stupid things like, we're doing this to protect you. The response from Wizards of the Coast coinciding with D&D Beyond subscription cancellations was a coincidence. It takes longer than that to modify a legal document. No, it does not. Especially if it's an in-house legal document. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let us forget that the first 6 months of the pandemic apocalypse, I worked as a legal aid. In addition, I have spent most of my life in and around people who do things like grant writing and copywriting and trademarks. I worked in the entertainment industry in Hollywood for 16 years. I have had lunch with people like Clive Barker. I have spent several conversations with the staff of Babylon 5, Stravinsky. I had coffee with Eric Bress. I have written scripts that have been made into movies. It takes longer than that to modify a legal document. It takes as long as it takes you to type it to modify the legal document. To get a legal document authorized and notarized takes 24 to 48 hours. The atmosphere in Wizards of the Coast during the delay before making an announcement after OGL 1.1 went public was bad. Fear of making it worse if they said anything, the feeling of what they should not talk, just deliver new version. That is 100% true, and it is still true today. So please, if you are anybody out there within the sound of my voice, who are attacking the staff members of Wizards of the Coast, please stop. About 60 of them are going to lose their jobs, including the director of D&D creativity, who is Jeremy Crawford and or Chris Perkins. And most of those people are going to lose their jobs because of this. And a lot of people who at Wizards of the Coast have already got the threat of how you spoke up. So we're looking at you, Billy. So yes, that is absolutely true. Brink does not know who wrote the unpopular "You won, but we won too" announcement and saw it as the same time we did. He was not happy with it. Wasn't your name on that, Kyle? Didn't that come from your department? You're executive vice president of D&D Beyond. It was posted on D&D Beyond. How did you miss it? Draft contracts can have dates and boxes for signatures. No, they cannot. Despite the leaked version going to some publishers, it was not final or published. Nope. Because, and I was, again, let's go back to my plenty of years of experience in the hobby. If there's a name on it that's been signed, it could be considered a legally binding document. So even if it said in big red letters engulfed in the flames of Mordor, draft, and somebody accidentally signed it, you could say, well, Your Honor, this individual acted in good faith as if they believed this was a legally binding document and signed it. Therefore, it's a legally binding document, even though it says in big flaming letters from the fires of Mordor, draft. He signed it, therefore it's legally binding. And the judge would go, how did you miss that? And the guy would go, I don't know. I just missed it. I signed it. I was told to sign it. I signed it. Yeah, no, sorry. States. $10 million that goes towards rent and employees designs another thing. Yes, Cap Monroe. I am well aware of the $10 million that our friends at Critical Role made. Most of that did not go into anybody's pocket, despite what some others have said. That was reinvested into the company that allowed them to create their own production company, buy the new studio, buy the new sets, pay off the 50 to 80 people that work behind the scenes. The actual money that Marisha and Matt and Travis saw, a percentage of that, but they did make the money. Where was I? There were dissenting voices within Wizards of the Coast regarding the OGL 1.1, but once the company had agreed how to proceed, everybody did the best they could to deliver. Again, I believe that. We know for a fact that multiple Wizards of the Coast employees were dead set against this, but we also know that multiple Wizards of the Coast employees were under NDAs and threat of termination if they did anything about it. So do your job and shut the F up is standard operating procedure, especially in a situation like that. So Kyle, I'll give you that one. The dissenting voices were not give enough weight to affect change. Brink's team is now involved in the process and can influence decisions. Well, Brink, nobody wants you involved or influencing decisions because the decisions you've made so far were awful. The SRD released into Creative Commons is a one-way door. There can be no take back, except we have already seen that you used the wrong Creative Commons. Ryan Dancy, the father of the OGL, just put up an article about how you chose the wrong Creative Commons, that if you really wanted to do what you said you were doing, you would have used CYBA something, but instead you used CYA, I don't know, words and numbers that I don't understand. But basically, there are several versions of the Creative Commons. You used one, but the other one actually would have been better to use because it would actually allow you to do what you could say you could do. And I'm still throwing out there the possibility that they're going to say, oh, we did not mean to give you permission to use the words beholder and mind flayer and Strahd. So we have to rewrite it because that wasn't a mistake. You got to remember, some poor kid in editing had to cut and paste this thing and post it. So yeah. And it went from 9 pages to 400 pages. So sorry. Yeah, we're going to rewrite it so you can't have beholder anymore. And then while we rewrite it, oh, well, we changed a few things. We hope nobody will notice. One D&D. The intention is that the all-new One D&D updates we're doing, the SRD will be updated to remain compatible with all that. That's absolutely true. We did need a new SRD. Wizards D&D has not been, the same since Tasha's. You literally rewrote and almost created a brand new game. So yeah, we did need an updated SRD. This might be with updated rules or with bridging language like change the word race to species, because that didn't get you in trouble. Anything built with the current SRD will be 100% compatible with the new rules. No, it will not. It's absolutely not backwards compatible. Brink does not think there is a plan to or does not see the value of in creating a new OGL just for one D&D, when and if they put more stuff into the public space, they do it through Creative Commons. I am 99% sure there will be a new OGL SRD for D&D 6th edition. Of course there will be, because otherwise you'd have to change the existing SRD, because the existing SRD only addresses 5th edition and 5th edition adjacent product. It doesn't cover 4, 3, 2, or 1. We don't know if it protects companies like Green Ronin and Mutants and Masterminds or Eclipse Phase or, Everyday Heroes or any of the other games that are OGL but not 5e adjacent. We only know that it protects 5e and 5e adjacent. So when 6e comes out, you would have to make a new OGL for people who exclusively want to write for 6e because the rules will be different. Well, WOTC doesn't think of 1D&D as a new edition. He feels it's more like what happened with 3.5. They think 5e is great, but could be better than play faster and easier than more room for role play. So there's stuff that can not improve, but not replace. Well, if it's not a new edition, we don't need to buy the new books, do we? Or download any of the new D&D Beyond crap. If they're just new expansions for the existing game, which, a lot of people think of them as anyways, why would I spend $100 for a brand new rule system that says 1D&D / 6th edition Dungeons and Dragons if you're not making a 6th edition? If you're just give me the errata that changes the rules. It'd be cheaper for you. It'd be cheaper for me. I mean, why make a book that's going to cost you? I don't know how much it costs to make a single book right now, but I'm sure, especially what the things are for single book. But I'm going to, let's say, $100. Let's say it costs Hasbro $100 to make a player's handbook. On the other hand, it would cost Hasbro nothing to make errata. You just make the errata, put it for free on D&D Beyond, have a quick start rule set for $10 on whatever. Here's all the things that changed for 5.5, 1D&D, bam. You know how much it cost us to make that? Nothing. Less work, less time, less money if 1D&D really was just an extension / house cleaning of 5. But nope, we're doing exactly what we did with 3.5. Well, if you remember, 3.5 could have been fixed with an errata, but instead, you made us buy a brand new game. So, yeah. And now, inclusivity. You ready for this one? Thank you to Diversity in Dragons for making this first aware to me. Thank you to Pundit and Tanker and Venger and I'm sure Jim and all the other people who have already jumped on this. WOTC is leaning on the community to discourage bad actors and hateful content rather than counting on legal document. Well, okay, yeah, it is the responsibility for each and every table to decide who you want at your table and what you're okay with being talked about. You know, Wizards of the Coast is not your parents. It is not their job to monitor what we think, say, or feel. They are working on an adaptable content policy describing what they consider to be hateful content, which will apply to Wizards of the Coast works. No legal structure to apply it to anybody else. Hey, didn't you say you weren't going to do that? And didn't everybody say when I said they're still going to do it? Oh, no, they're not going to conclude the hateful content thing. If you look at the SRD, there's no mention of it. And I was like, they're still going to do it. And look, we're working on a content policy describing what they can consider hateful content. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's just, there you go, right there. Copy, paste. It is, yeah, it is 6th edition. They have said it was 6th edition. It says on the internal memos, which I get because I'm a shareholder, 6th edition. It literally says June 2027, D&D 6X. So yes, they are still lording over us with their belief that they can tell us how to think and feel and write. So, Jeannie D, again, this means if you post a song that somebody is offended by because it talks about your orc and your elf character making sweet, sweet love, that could be considered inappropriate and therefore hateful. Jessica Nagiri, if you cosplay as female take on Drizzt and show a little cleavage, well, that could be considered offensive and inappropriate and hateful. And we could come after you. Oh, OGGM, you just created a product where you had an evil race. Well, evil is a hateful content, and saying that the so-and-so race is evil is racist. Therefore, we're going to go after you, even though I don't know how and what legal power you would have other than the fear of bad Twitter and, you know, the Connie Changs and Daniel Kwans and Mark Holmes of the world going, shame on you and stuff like that. But yeah, so it's still there. They are now have external inclusivity reviewers who look over every word and report back. They are putting old content through the same process before reprints. Yes, because we know all the old content was racist because it was built by white folk like me. That Oriental Adventures thing that's so racist. No. Actual Oriental folk worked on it. It was all white folk like me. Oh, God, I'm going to get in so much trouble for this. No, that is a lie. Actual people who are from, you know, descended from people from that part of the world, multiple of them worked on it. I know some of them, so I can tell you without a shadow of doubt, there's nothing problematic about Oriental Adventures. It was made for the same reason every other thing that was made about that time in the world, to milk the ninja fad of the 80s. Now, we talked about the internal inclusivity reviewers before when Chris Perkins brought this up. This is what's known as deflecting blame. It's not our fault that you found that image problematic, Cal, it's not our fault that you found that image problematic, Robbie. We had cultural consultants look at it because you asked us to. And if they missed it and it made it to press, that's not on us. That's on the cultural consultant. And don't worry, we will do an internal investigation, Green Apple, and that individual will be spoken to. But it's not our fault. Remember, dirty old Groganard, we hired these cultural consultants and sensitivity people because you asked us to. And they missed it? That's not our fault. That's their fault. Previously, cultural consultants were used for spot reviews on things they thought might be problematic, but not everything, e.g. Hadozi. That was the one day the cultural consultant wasn't in. So yeah, the Hadozi went to print and you found them problematic. That's not on us. The problematic Hadozi content was listed by a trusted senior person at Wizards of the Coast, and very few people saw it before publication. That is absolutely bullshit. That is 100% bullshit. You're telling me nobody noticed that before it went to print and went, somebody out there is probably going to have an issue with this. All the editors and copiers and spot checkers and fact checkers, and there's at least 10 people whose job it would have been to look at that before it went to press. None of them noticed it. D&D Short's video on the internal workings and management culture of Wizards of the Coast is not something Brink can talk on, but it is not reflective of his team. Each team has its own culture. D&D Shorts, looks like they're coming after you. Wouldn't be surprised if there's a cease and desist somewhere in your future, buddy. But I think D&D Shorts knew that there was a potential for backlash when he went and dived into this for us. So we are all grateful for D&D Shorts that you did such an amazing job with the whole OGL thing, buddy. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a cease and desist coming your way. But you claim you have spoken with legal counsel, so I assume you are prepared, because I can't think that you would not have started this without knowing they were going to respond in some way. In the last couple of years, the D&D hiring process has been made more inclusive. This is what's known as diversity hires, where you hire somebody simply because of the way they look or think or whatever. You don't hire them on the merit of their resume. You hire them on the merit that, see, now we've got a disabled person working with us, OSHA. You can't say we're not disabledly exclusive. Please do not fine us. See, look, we've got somebody working for us, ACLOU. So please do not fine us. So yeah, in the interview, he basically admitted that there is a history of diversity hiring, but now they're going to hire more people based upon their resumes, not their physical appearance. Again, yeah, I doubt that one, but you never know. It should never have been in the first place. Now, here we go. When asked about non-white cis men in leadership positions at Wizards of the Coast, Brinks referred to some designers and authors. He said, guys like me, we're leaving the workforce, to be blunt. Yes, does this mean you're retiring from Wizards of the Coast, Kyle? And I'm not the face of the hobby anymore. It's important that the creators of Wizards of the Coast look like the players. Guys like me cannot leave soon enough. Reverse racism. Inclusiveness. This is inclusiveness. Wizards of the Coast. Inclusiveness. Wizards of the Coast. We're all about inclusiveness. We're all about the hobby representing each and every individual on the face of the earth. All race, creed, color, and religions. Because up to now, it hasn't. All of you and the rest of the world, the thousands and thousands of you who've been playing the millions of role-playing games that have been in existence since 1976, none of you count till now. Now, this is the same company saying this who put out surveys about inclusiveness and about the OGL and forgot to put them in the multiple languages some of their viewers might speak besides English. Case in point, it's not in Spanish. You didn't release a Braille version. In fact, several people have said, that's not in my native language, but we're inclusive. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. The executive vice president of D&D Beyond is saying people like him people like me, people like, I don't know, him. By the way, if you want to know what he looks like, he's a white guy. There he is right there. That's him. This is the guy. People like this, gingers with glasses, this guy should leave the hobby. That looks a lot like me. So, yeah, I guess we're not welcome. Well, you know what? If you don't want my money, Wizards of the Coast, anymore, I will gladly take it someplace else. Who do you want playing D&D? I don't know. People with glasses need to leave the hobby. People with beards and mustaches need to leave the hobby. People wearing sweatshirts need to leave the hobby. People who live in Seattle need to live in the hobby. Gingers need to leave the hobby. Or just white middle-class dudes need to leave the hobby and have all the people who have never been welcome at the D&D table before to be welcome at D&D, because up to now, we know nobody has, except that's bullshit. As for the virtual tabletop that they are going to be making, 100% absolutely. Anybody out there who's saying otherwise, you are spinning an alternate reality that is rapidly just blowing out hot air. They are going to be making 6th edition into a VTT. Goal is to make more ways to play, including a cool-looking 3D space that we will charge you for. You want that cool-looking 3D fire effect in your dungeon that nobody fucking cares about? Here it is, but it's going to cost you $1.99 to add it to your VTT. Digital gaming is not meant to replace books, but to be an additive. You are literally said you're going to replace the books. The strategy is to give players a choice, and Wizards of the Coast will go where the players' interests lie. Well, the players' interests lie in you not making a 6th edition. The players' interests lie in you not making a virtual tabletop. The players' interests lie in you making D&D Beyond actually work. The players' interests lie in you making good quality that doesn't cost product that doesn't cost $100. The players' interests lie in you making 4 books a year instead of 40 books a year. The players' interests lie in more options for player characters. The combat system being not so chunky. And for you to stop insulting us. Again, Wizards of the Coast, all you have to do between now and whenever 6th edition comes out in 2025 is not let guys like this open their mouth. Now, I can't imagine what kind of trouble Kyle's in this morning as he walked back to the office. Maybe he's being cheered. Oh, Kyle, you're amazing. I don't know. Wizards of the Coast, let's go to your webpage. Who we are. Where is the thing that shows all the people who work for Wizards of the Coast? Huh. Oh well, I can't find it. But there's a page that shows Cynthia and Jeremy and all the other people who are the executive directors and vice presidents of stuff of this thing. And guess what? They're all folk that look like me. I do not know how to respond to this. So I'm going to go to one of my favorite quotes from one of my favorite baseball movies. Tell them I'm done for the love of the game. I'm done, Wizards of the Coast. And I think a lot of people are. You've literally just driven another nail in the coffin. We thought, oh, we'd get a few days of, it'd be calm. The OGL SRD thing was over. We were all just spinning our wheels. We were moving on to the next topic, which was going to be safety tools, I'm sure. We were waiting for people to start lying about keys to the Golden Vault and making fun of them. And we're hearing from the game stores about how these influencers come in, hold up the copy of the product, and then take a picture of them holding it and then leave until the store eventually kicks them out. You know who I'm talking about? And yeah, I was figured, February we'd have some, virtual signaler find something offensive in Keys to the Golden Vault. And we'd talk about that, how it's not offensive and that's not what they meant. And literally, you're wrong. But nope. Kyle, thank you again for 3 halflings to make this available to us. And that the link to the original interview is down below. And the link to the thing I just went through is down below. And I am sure as I speak, multiple YouTubers are responding to this. Many of them will be responding like I am. There might even be a few out there who are like, oh man, everything Kyle said, I totally agree with. What a genius. Yes, this is the D&D I want to play. Cannot wait. We know who one of those are. I'm waiting to see, what is Jeannie D going to say after she decided she was on our side? What is Mercer going to say? What are all the previous D&D shills going to say about this Kyle saying, Jeannie D, you're no longer welcome in D&D because you're like him? Now, I could be more of a jackass about this. I know there's a game convention coming up, and I can walk in and see all the people playing D&D at the convention and go, you, D&D doesn't want you playing D&D. You, D&D doesn't want you playing D&D. You, get out of here. We don't want you playing D&D anymore. We do not want your money. Wizards of the Coast is saying, we don't want your money. We don't want you playing our game. Every single solitary one of you who have loved this game for 40 some odd years, played this game for 40 some odd years, created for this game for 40 some odd years, grew the hobby to include the entire planet and space, because they played D&D on the space station, to, oh, well, yeah, we don't want that. We don't want you. We want, I don't know, people who don't actually play the game to influence the future of the game. All those members of the staff, yeah, we don't want you playing D&D. All the shareholders who look like me, yeah, we don't want your money. We don't want your D&D. Yeah, no. I need coffee. Am I still going to talk about Wizards of the Coast news, even though I know it's giving Wizards of the Coast free press? Yes. Yes, I am. Am I going to buy any Wizards of the Coast product? No. No, I am not. Am I going to play any Wizards of the Coast games? Am I going to stand on my thing and say, well, all my friends are playing 5e, but I don't want to play 5e because I'm boycotting D&D? No, because nobody's saying you can't play 5e. So again, whoever is out there spreading this rumor that we're burning your books and telling you can't play 5e anymore, and my favorite quote of all, taking away your golden dungeon master crown, that is completely bullshit. If you already own 5e, if you're playing 5e, if you enjoy 5e, continue to play. If somebody says, hey, Mike, I'm running a 5e game, do you want to join? I'm going to go, well, up till now, I haven't actually played 5e because every 5e game I was in so far has been somebody trying to make 5e something it's not. So I would love to actually play 5e the way it was written. Is that how you're going to run it? Because then, yeah, sure. There's tons of stuff I would love to do to break that system. But, I've been playing 5e pretty consistently since 2014. And I can say with some level of, frustration, I don't think I've played 5e because everybody keeps trying to make it something it's not, including the most recent 5e game I was in. But hey, nobody's telling you can't. And nobody's saying I'm not going to play 5e. I'm just not going to buy any stuff, Wizards of the Coast. And I'm going to remind people that Wizards of the Coast doesn't want them playing D&D every time it comes up in a conversation. Yeah, but if it's what everybody's playing, it's my only option. It's like starving, or your choices are starve to death or eat this cake, which will make you sick. Well, eat this cake and make me sick because I don't want to starve to death. But I have a feeling I'm about to begin another long, dry haul of not playing. Not that there's much gaming here at Site B anyways. I mean, gaming is pretty much dead in this town. I can't believe somebody's trying to start a convention here again. That's a whole separate topic. But yeah, I can already tell you, dude, your 3-day convention, that's going to fail. There's not enough of a game playing audience in Site B in Ventura to support a 3-day convention. But that's a separate topic. Well, we've been talking about this for over an hour. I'm sure many of you are exhausted like I am listening to this. I don't know what else I can say that people who are smarter than me haven't already said. And we're going to see tons of articles about this and tons of responses about this. And I'm waiting to see somebody come out and say, oh, this was a positive spin. But most of the things have been, yeah, this is negative. Yeah, there's probably things he couldn't say. Even the 3 black halflings after the end of the interview, if you listen to them, they're like, yeah, I don't believe him. I'll wait to see. I don't think that's going to happen. And I wonder, even though he was no longer in the room, if he was still listening and he hears them go, well, yeah, we don't believe him. So Kyle, yeah, nobody believes you, dude. Sure, you were towing the company line, but I can't imagine you were one of the people that were defending 5 during this, because that's, your job, dude. Do we think Kyle's going to be the executive vice president of D&D Beyond much longer? Probably not. Mark Sherlock Holmes, one of the biggest D&D shills I know, said that to me years ago when I had an email conversation with him about D&D and Powered by the Apocalypse. And he was just starting his YouTube Critical Role ripoff, High Rollers. And I, said, I think D&D, let's YouTube D&D, want to talk to you about D&D. Guy said to me, there's absolutely no reason for me to play any other game or learn any other game. A week later, he was shilling a completely different game. So yeah, you need to learn other games, folks. I tried, and I've failed every time, but yeah. Kyle get a promotion from executive vice president of D&D Beyond to president of D&D Beyond? I don't know. He doesn't think he should be in the hobby. So shouldn't she be leaving the hobby? Taking a break. I don't know. Kyle, go get a job at McDonald's or something. Take a walk. Wizards of the Coast. Shut the F up for the rest of the year. Go outside. Have lunch. Let somebody else do this because Kyle should not have been the one speaking. Of course, one of the things they didn't mention was how Wizards of the Coast was afraid Disney would make their own tabletop role-playing game. And that was one of the other reasons they wrote the OGL 1.1 the way it is. It's like, well, we didn't want Disney suddenly making a role-playing game that was somehow D&D adjacent. We, of course, completely forget that, Disney owns 50% of the D&D cartoon. So they could have if they wanted to, and you couldn't have done anything about it. And really, if Disney wanted to make their own role-playing game, they would have done it by now. Instead, they made Kingdom Hearts. And they certainly wouldn't have used your system. They would have made up their own system, like they did for the new Marvel game. Because they wouldn't want you saying, oh, Mickey Mouse is now canon in D&D because you made a game using our rules. No, they'd be like, no, we want to control 110% of anything having to do with our own role-playing game. So we're going to make our own system like we did for the brand new Marvel Multiverse role-playing game. And we probably would have based it on Kingdom Hearts because we've already got an established canon for a role-playing game. And we would have done it a long time ago because we have half the rights to the D&D cartoon. So we could have done it at any point in time. We also own tons of IP that could easily be turned into a role-playing game. How many people out there have been screaming for more stuff from Gargoyles? So yeah, you're afraid of Disney? You shouldn't be afraid of Disney. They could buy you in a second. Yeah, Kyle should lose his job to the next diverse hire. All right, ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels and wasting your time. It's 10 o'clock in the morning. Thank you to each and every one of you who've sat in for the past hour and listened to me pontificate about this nonsense. If you have anything else you want to say on this topic, feel free to post it down below or in the comments or DM me. Will this come up again? Of course it will. Thank you to Dungeons and Diversities, Double D, for making me aware of this. Thank you for Kyle to give us something else to talk about. Thank you to each and every member of Wizards of the Coast who fought against this and are actually out there supporting us. Thank you to D&D Shorts for being one of the many individuals who went to bat during this thing and risked potential legal entanglement in the future. And thank you to my sponsor, Big Geek Emporium. Hey, you know what? The best way to support the OGGM adventures is to head on over to Big Geek Emporium and buy my merch. I've got seven issues out now of the Minions on a Mission Monster zines, all on sale for $2. So if you appreciate the words that are coming out of my mouth and want to support me, you could use many of the links below. Try the PayPal, buy me a Ko-Fi through Ko-Fi. But the best way to support the OGGM adventures is to head on over to Big Geek Emporium and buy my merch. It helps them, it helps you, it helps me. And this is my job. So I didn't talk for an hour because I appreciate each and every one of you. I talked for an hour because I need me some monies. It's 60 cents on a dollar right now. So it is dropping. If I sold it now, I would lose, 60 cents on a dollar. So 10, 20, 30, 40 cents for each share. That's not a good thing. Hey, I didn't sign up to get the stock because I thought it would be a great investment for the future of me and my children. Well, my cat. I knew they were going to crash. I knew there was no way they could repeat the year they had in 2020 and 2021. There were so many factors in that could never be repeated. So I knew I was going to lose money. I did it so I could get information. We'll wait to see how the movie and the TV show does. And as I've already said, the fact that Hasbro only greenlit 8 episodes on a TV show channel that just got bought out shows they didn't have a lot of faith. 8 episodes means, yeah, we don't think this thing's going to have wheels. And then, of course, Paramount said, hey, we don't exist anymore. Now we're this weird conglomeration of Paramount and Showtime. We're now a brand new thing. And maybe our target audience aren't the kind of people who want to watch D&D. Maybe our target audience is the kind of people who want to see the kind of stuff that you used to be able to see on Showtime, like boobies. So I don't know. That eight episode TV show doesn't have much of a future, I don't think. And the movie, yeah, it's not going to make the kind of money they think it's going to make. Yeah. All right, that's it. I got nothing else. There is some other stuff we need to talk about today, but that will cover this. At least some of the toys looked cool. So head on over to Big Geek Emporium, buy my merch, and I will talk to you all later. See ya.